was finished, I turned to the band and asked them to play one of my favorite songs, Dixie. True to my words, I ordered that the Confederate soldiers who had surrendered be allowed to return home with their horses and mules in time for the spring planting, so that for the first time in 4 years they could plant seed instead of men in southern soil. For my part, I was anxious to visit the fallen Confederate capital of Richmond. Took my little son Tad with me. I wanted to see some of these now free slaves. As we walked along, some of them knelt before me. No, get up, don't kneel before me. Kneel only to God and thank Him for the freedom you shall enjoy hereafter. For you see, now they were truly free. Not by the emancipation which could have been declared null and void now that the war was over, but by the 13th Amendment, which would abolish slavery forever. I also wanted to visit the Confederate White House, as they called it. And on the whim, I sat in Jeff Davis's chair. Even he was no enemy now. I ordered that he be left alone. Well, that was 6 days ago. And they're still celebrating in the streets of Washington. My wife Mary has convinced me to take a break from all this and enjoy a night at the theater. Seems ages ago we attended the theater. In fact, it was 2 years ago. We attended the play at, I believe it was the Ford's Theater. Tonight we're going to go see Our American Cousin. But the last time we went to the theater was to see a play called Marble Heart, which starred a marvelous young actor. It was his Booth, John Wilkes Booth. Fine young actor. After his performance, I sent a note backstage to see if I could meet with them. He declined. No surprise. Many people have come to hate me over these war years. Perhaps that'll all change now. But tonight we're going to make the first of many to enjoy our lives again and enjoy the peace that the nation has finally achieved. So I must run along. Mary's rather impatient, you know. I can't explain it, but she's the only thing I'm afraid of that I know can't hurt me. But you know, you've been patiently listening to my story, so perhaps if any of you have any questions about Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War, I could answer those quickly before I dash off to the theater. Anyone have any questions? No questions. Well, I know of at least 7 mistakes I made myself, so. No one? Yes.
Did your wife cause you a lot of headaches while you were trying to run the country?
Well, she was rather tempestuous. She was very ambitious, not only for herself, but for me especially, and didn't want anything to get in the way of that. So I would say in that respect, I was always a victim of, I guess they call it depression nowadays, but back then they called it melancholy, and I think she shared those maladies herself from time to time. But remember, we, as a family, we had endured terrible loss even before I took the office of president. And lost a son in the White House, as a matter of fact. But she was a very strong character, I would say that. In the back.
Would you have ever become president if it hadn't been for her?
Well, not only for her, but for a strange situation that developed because of the controversy that split up the nation in the first place. You see, it was the only time that there were 4 different candidates that were split down the middle, and each had a block of voters. So it was a combination of things, I guess you might say, but I owe a lot of my success to her. And I think that she admired and was very proud of all my activities. we had our differences, and some of the broken china has attested to that. Anyone else? Yes?
Were there any kind of security measures in force at the time?
Well, there was no Secret Service, but the fellow, Mr. Pinkerton and his group, who later became very famous, were the one that guided me safely through Baltimore before I even took the office of president. But I think now that the war is over, I think everybody will, they might have some hard feelings, but I don't think anything will come of it. But now I guess although it is a little strange, I've been having some odd dreams these days. I keep dreaming I get up and I hear crying and saw a coffin in the rotunda, and I asked who died in the White House, and they said the president, which is silly because, of course, you're looking at him. But another thing that's odd is that every night when I'm done at the office there at the White House, my bodyguard, my White House bodyguard, Mr. Crook, and I go through sort of a ritual. We salute each other, and I say, "Good night, Mr. Crook." But tonight, for some strange reason, we saluted, and I said, "Goodbye, Mr. Crook." Isn't that odd? Well, perhaps then it is goodbye,